So it is September 16th, day 16 of my attempt to write 30 to 50,000 words in a month, and I've finally written 25,050 words. Ladies and gentlemen, we are halfway there, in theory. And how is all of that writing treating me? How is that goal coming along? How has my writing process been? And what effects am I seeing from it? To say I may have overdone a little is not over-exaggerating. Just a general note to self. If you buy a gel cushion, don't lose it right before you decide to write 50,000 words in a month. The whole computer posture thing turns out not to be a joke. Wrist tendonitis aside, I wanted to look at what's working for me, what's not working for me, what have my struggles been so far. The bright sides. I have been enjoying being out of writer's block, and starting to realize that part of that was the fact I just wasn't writing, which is great to know that, if I find some willpower and motivation and give myself enough dopamine reward that I can get out of it and start writing again. I have successfully written every single day. There were a few days where I only wrote like 20 words, and there were days where I wrote 3,000 words, possibly to compensate for the fact that I had only written 20-ish words, but I was still writing. And so it has been very nice to the fact that I've written for 16 days in a row. Also, the biggest struggle has been just getting the word count in. I anticipate that this rough draft is going to be the most heinous piece of writing I have ever written in my life. The most chaotic, the most mismanaged, poorly paced, poorly described, over-described, under-described thing ever, because I have not edited anything, which is, kind of cool and also a little terrifying knowing that I'm going to be dealing with a hot mess. The biggest thing I have found that's helped me is every day when I sit down to write, I think, where did I leave off? What's next? And what are the next few things that my character would take? So hypothetically, if yesterday you ended your writing with your character being stuck in an elevator, how do they get out of the elevator? What do they do after getting out of the elevator? And what are their next few steps after that? And I usually make it my goal to write those things, and I find I often reach my word count in getting there. And also, I find it very helpful to leave notes to myself. Whatever you're using to write your story, if you have a Word document, Google document, doing it by hand, add in a comment every so often if you know that you want something to happen but can't edit at the moment, and that way when you go back and read, you will remember things. So I've definitely done things like pacing should be better, remember to describe characters in this situation, X, Y, and Z should have already happened, so put that in a little bit earlier. And those things might get scrapped entirely, but at the very least when I go back and read and in editing mode, I know what my idea was, because realistically I'm probably not going to remember what my intention was at 2,000 words when I have finished in over 50,000 words. And hopefully that advice is helpful for people who kind of just want to pants their novels too and not plan at all. Because sitting down each day and being like, okay, we're going to get through X, Y, and Z, and we figured out today, or maybe you figured out a few days ahead. But definitely, if you're a planner, give yourself some time to plan a little bit, and don't think, oh, I'll figure that out later in the month, because you'll fall behind. I have also found that not trying to set up all of my writing in one sit-down moment is helpful. Writing a little bit throughout the day is nice. That way it breaks things up. You also don't run into it being like 10 o'clock at night and being like, oh, I need to write 1,600 words and I haven't written a single thing. Also, most importantly, if you happen to injure yourself, it is okay to not be able to meet your word goal on a certain day for multiple days, because this will just get worse if you keep pushing yourself. I would know. So don't be afraid to take breaks when you need it, and if you don't want to fall behind or worry about slipping into bad habits, you can always use voice dictation on your phone or on your computer, and it definitely feels awkward and a little clunky, and you can't really format things as easily, but at least you have words on the page and you can always go back and edit them later. The other thing kind of surprised me was just the pacing of my novel. I planned for this novel to occur over a couple months, and I'm 25,000 words in, and 5 days have passed in this story. And I think it's kind of necessary because a lot happens in those 5 days and they set up a lot of things. But it's really weird to be like, this is supposed to be stretched over months, and I haven't even gotten out the first week of the inciting incident yet. It's been really fun going on this writing journey and being able to write so much of a novel for like one of the first times ever and still be on track and still wanting to write it has made me realize that pacing can look different. And I'm very excited to sit down and edit this thing once I'm finally done. I think that waiting till it's basically finished is a good idea for me. My old writing style was that I would write a chapter or two and then I would edit that chapter and then I would move on and write. And that isn't necessarily the worst way of doing things, but the problem is, let's say I wrote chapter 5 and I tweak something in it and then I realized, oh wait, I have to tweak this thing in chapter 1 now, otherwise it's going to be an inconsistency. And honestly, just having an entire rough draft from beginning to end and then being able to go through and edit things and not have that halt my writing progress is the biggest godsend. And I'm very glad people came up with NaNoWriMo, because otherwise my writing process would have just sucked for a really long time and I wouldn't have come up with this idea on how to fix it. Having gone through 16 straight days of writing, I have got to say, if there is a story that you want to write, or if you like the idea of writing but you never have really quite started, go ahead and do it. And it doesn't have to be good, it doesn't have to be something you want to publish, but there is something really satisfying in being able to sit down and look at everything you've written and be like, wow, I did this, I can do this. And you're never going to get good at writing until you're bad at writing, so even if this novel ends up being a complete trash fire and I don't end up liking the concept, at least I'll be able to look back and say, you know what, I finished a novel. I'm really hoping I don't hate this novel, because I have injured my wrist writing it, so it better be something I want to stick through. Actually, my final piece of advice is, if you start hurting your wrist, wrap it when you're sleeping so it doesn't get bent at a weird angle, and remember to ice regularly and take some ibuprofen. Otherwise it's going to take longer to heal. Bye!